Has Dr. Amit come in?
Yes, very much.
Oh, yes. Welcome, Doctor. Because your sip is something that we all look forward to. And I know that even some time back, maybe last year when it was very hot, you gave us a lot of tips on how to avoid heat stroke. So I hope whatever sip you have for us will help us to cool down a bit at least. So welcome, Doctor. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's going to be a hot sip for the day today. And I really love the hymn that you played in the beginning. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings on me. And often we don't realize what our blessings are, and we need to appreciate things that we have. Often we appreciate things that we have when we don't have them. For example, that's the irony of life. You know, we appreciate happiness when we are sad. When we face sadness, that's the time we say, okay, those are the days I was very happy, and I kind of appreciate that much later on. You appreciate silence when there is too much of noise, and you appreciate that cool climate that we have in Goa when we have this kind of a heat around. So my sip is also based on that, as you rightly said. I couldn't escape this topic. It's not that you gave it to me, but then we just thought alike. Yesterday itself, in a meeting in Mumbai, 11 people died of heat stroke when they were there out at a meeting. Millions of people die around the world due to heat stroke. So as in the sips, I usually tell you the benefits of the sun, and the sun is the giver of life. There's no doubt about that. But because of the sun, you can also die. Because of the heat, you can also die. You not only fall sick, but you can also die. And that is why we definitely need to be aware of what this heat stroke is all about. So heat stroke generally happens when your body temperature rises rapidly and your body is unable to cool down. Our body has mechanisms to be able to cool down. The temperature rises, we sweat, and these are mechanisms by which we cool down. But it rises so rapidly, it goes to a temperature of around 40 degrees centigrade or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. That's when somebody can get a heat stroke. There are two basic types, exertional type and non-exertional type. I'm just simplifying this for you. The exertional type is something that athletes may have when they exert themselves. Somebody is going for a run in the hot sun. Somebody is doing some kind of exercise, vigorous exercise. That causes a loss of electrolyte and can lead to a stroke of this kind. Or it can be non-exertional type. If you go out in the sweltering heat, if it is so hot, because of that, you can end up with a heat stroke. Now, remember, heat stroke is not a minor condition. You just fainted and fell down and everything is fine. If you are in that situation for 30 minutes, if you're not revived, your organs can get destroyed. They can be damaged to the brain, to the lung, to your GIT, to your circulatory system, to your kidney. The organs can fail and people die due to heat stroke. It just happened yesterday. And so it can happen. It happens very commonly in a country like us. In the US alone, per year, there are recorded around 600 deaths due to heat stroke. So something that is really worrisome, something that we cannot ignore, and something that we have actually not ignored. When we're planning a picnic for you, we're trying to make sure that we're going to keep the heat away. We're going to beat the heat during the picnic. So all measures have been taken to make sure it's in the shade and nothing of this kind can happen. But how do you recognize heat stroke? How do you recognize, what are the signs of a heat stroke? One, the temperature will go up. So your temperature, body temperature is going to go high. There can be confusion. Now remember, these are little odd signs that you may not associate with the heat stroke. The person may appear very confused, may be very agitated because of the heat. The person may be agitated. There can be slurring of the speech. There can be loss of consciousness. The person may feel dizzy. There can be rapid breathing. The heart rate may increase. The pulse will increase. The person's skin may be flushed, will be red, and there can be excessive sweating. So these are kind of the signs of heat stroke. Immediately, the person should go to a shady place. Preferably, there's a room with AC, has to go there, wet themselves. Now, it can happen to anybody. It can happen to the rich. It can happen to the poor. It can happen to a farmer. It can happen to a driver. It can happen to a doctor. It can happen to anyone. It can happen to a very healthy person as well. It is not that the weak are more likely to get it. Yes, there are some people who are more likely to succumb to a heat stroke. And who are these people? Children less than 4 years, because their CNS system to manage the heat, the temperature, the body temperature is not so well developed. And therefore, you see, if children get high temperature, they can get febrile seizures. The reason for that is the same. On the other extreme, people above the age of 65 may also succumb to this. And this is because their CNS system to be able to regulate the body temperature is not functioning so well, as a result of which they may not be able to control the heat and regulate the heat, as a result of which they may have a problem if they go out in the hot sun. So it's very important for you to understand that people with excessive clothing, not dressed appropriately for the summer, can trap the heat inside, and they are more likely to have a problem. If there is a lot of humidity, they can have a problem. If people are dehydrated, can have a problem. If people have consumed alcohol, the chances of having a heat stroke is also more. So these are the people who are at risk. Now, what should you do in case there's a heat stroke? If there is heat, the counter to that is cold. So you need to get somebody to a cooler place, in a shady place. So it depends on where you are. Call the ambulance immediately if you think it's something serious, because by the time you resuscitate the person, the ambulance should be there. It's not that after you spend half an hour on the person and you realize nothing can be done and then call the ambulance, it could be very late. So call an ambulance. Put a person in a room. If there is an air conditioner, put that on. Pour water on the person. Ice, if there is, put ice on the person. Give the person, if the person is conscious, you can give the person to drink. Now, there are these WhatsApp messages that are going around. Don't give people cold water, etc. Now, preferably, we give them normal temperature. And if even better, if you can give them something like electrolytes. So you can give them a sports drink or maybe an ORS solution that is needed for them, because they would have lost a lot of electrolytes. That's ideal. But the WhatsApp message, if you give them some ice water to drink or something, the blood vessels will burst. That is not true. So don't be afraid of that. But preferably just give them water that you have at the room temperature should be fine. Rehydrate them, give them a cold shower, put the AC on and cool the body, and the person should be able to recover from that heat stroke. So be careful about the heat stroke. Don't worry about it, but be alert about it and know that it can happen to anyone. That's my hot tip for the day.